I love talking to groups like this because I think there's so many tangible tips that are possible for MS in many different avenues to help improve your strength, your balance, your mobility. And today's topic is going to be fatigue. I know that I get questions in my social media inboxes, my emails, probably daily about fatigue management. And there's so much that you can do. So I'm going to be sharing those with you today. And also, you guys are the very first group to get my most updated presentation with newest research that I just learned about a week ago at the annual MS conference from CMSC. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we will just dive in here. View. All right, so as Mindy had said, we're going to be talking about physical therapy, specifically for MS fatigue. And we will have some demonstrations at the end, so I hope you're ready to get moving. Our objectives for today. So first, we're going to talk about MS-specific physical therapy. We're also going to talk about different types of fatigue, different treatments, and how to exercise with fatigue. And then at the very end, I have one quick slide on ways that we can work together if you do feel like you need more guidance. So physical therapy can be helpful in so many things. And you can let us know in the chat if you've been to physical therapy, and specifically if it was with an MS specialist or a traditional orthopedic physical therapist. But when you're working with the right type of physical therapy for you, it can help in so many areas of multiple sclerosis. This is just a very small list that I put together: the strength, cognition, balance, aerobic endurance, spasticity, fatigue I highlighted because that's our main topic today, depression, walking, and lastly, I put here quality of life, because if even just one of these areas listed here improved, wouldn't your quality of life be a little bit better? And maybe if 2 or 3 of them improved, your quality of life would be even better and more independent. So it's really powerful having the right tools and strategies to help you with your MS. So I just quickly wanted to touch on MS-specific PT versus traditional PT. And I love talking about this because I've been both. I wasn't always an MS specialist. I was a traditional orthopedic physical therapist for about 2 years before becoming an MS certified PT. And there's big differences. And I know there's differences from my patient's perspective as well, because oftentimes I will hear my clients first say, I've been to PT before and it didn't work for me, so I don't think this is going to work either. I used to hear that all the time. So if you've said that, I hope you keep an open mind. An MS specialized PT has a heavy focus on functional strengthening, which means strengthening to improve your function. It's not just, okay, let's get stronger, or let's get better balance or more toned. It's more of, let's get stronger so that walking is easier, or let's get better balance so that stair climbing is easier. We also focus specifically on balance and walking in your day-to-day life instead of just regular balance movements, the typical ones, with your eyes closed or turning your head. Those are good ones, but they're not always as functional. We also focus on neuro recovery and or compensation. And what I mean by that is sometimes our goal is to actually strengthen the neural pathways from your brain all the way down to your hip flexors or down to your ankle so that you can improve your foot drop. So we want to strengthen those neural pathways. But other times, we actually want to strengthen the muscles that can help compensate. Because let's be honest, neuroplasticity takes a long time. It might take a few months before you're able to lift your ankle more effectively. So in the meantime, if we strengthen the compensatory muscles, you'll still be able to get from point A to point B safely, even with reduced foot drop. So we focus on both areas. And we also take many MS symptoms into consideration. Fatigue being a big one. There's many things that can cause fatigue, which we'll talk about next. Heat intolerance, your core temperature can rise while you're exercising. So taking proactive measures to reduce your core temperature so that you don't have heat intolerant symptoms. Sensation. If you don't have a lot of sensation in your feet, then strengthening and balance and walking are going to be more challenging. So there's sensation-based exercises we can do. Vision, if you have double vision or blurred vision, that's going to make exercises harder. So an MS specialized PT will take all of these things into consideration. All right, so let's jump into the different things that can cause fatigue. So primary fatigue is the type of fatigue where there is no reason that you're tired other than the disease process itself. You didn't stay up late at night. You didn't over-exercise. You got a good night's sleep. So there's nothing that you did that caused this fatigue. And oftentimes my missing link members will say that this type of fatigue for them just feels so heavy. And sometimes it's even hard to just open their eyes because their eyelids just feel so heavy and tired. Oftentimes this type of fatigue prevents you from getting out of bed or getting off of the couch. So this is primary fatigue. Now there's also secondary fatigue. Secondary fatigue means there's a reason for it. Maybe you did have a late night, or you didn't get a good night's sleep, or you're on medications that cause fatigue. This is just a small list here: temperature changes, pain, weakness, nutrition, depression, activity, exercise. So there's so many things that can cause fatigue. So this is secondary fatigue, and you can let us know in the chat too. I can see you guys commenting in there. You can let us know if you have primary or secondary, but I also want to say you can have both. You can have primary and secondary fatigue. So treatment, it used to be mostly just medication, which is the medical piece, or physical, which is the exercise piece. But what newest research is saying is that psychosocial and behavioral components need to be a part of treatment, that it's not always just medication or exercise. And the researcher at the conference that I was just at gave this great example of how she had a client who has MS, and she was saying, you know, I just get so fatigued when I'm vacuuming. I can only stand and vacuum for like 2 minutes before I'm just exhausted and wiped out. But that same client goes to a pottery class where she's standing and as she's making pottery for like an hour, and she can do that. And so the researcher was saying, you know, this client in particular made her go into research on psychosocial and behavioral components of fatigue, because technically standing while vacuuming is no different than standing while doing pottery. Yet for one, she had such a higher tolerance for fatigue than the other. So we're going to go into each of these three components. So for medical, these are some of the common medications given for fatigue. And I wanted to share with you newer research on this. So in a recent trial that compared modafinil, which is that first one listed there, amantadine, which is the second one down, and Ritalin to a placebo. So they had a bunch of people on each of these different medications or the placebo. And they were expecting to find that those taking some of these medications would have reduced fatigue compared to the placebo group. However, that's the opposite of what they found. There was such a strong placebo effect that none of these medications actually showed to be more beneficial than the placebo group. And I'm not saying that these medications don't work, but what basically the result of this research was that there's no single treatment effective for MS-related fatigue. And some people will take one of these medications and notice amazing benefits in their fatigue. Others won't notice anything at all. So it's very individualized. This is just a recent study that was published, but it does get you thinking, okay, well, maybe it shouldn't just be medical or just be a medication. Maybe it can be medication and something else, or medication or something else. So some of these psychosocial and behavioral components that have been studied and shown to be effective in reducing fatigue is cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, and mindfulness-based stress reduction. I'm not going to dive too much into these today because honestly, I am not the specialist in this area, but there was so much research having profound benefits for those with MS in reducing fatigue who additionally completed some type of psychosocial or behavioral therapy. So if you're taking notes, just go ahead and jot these down. When you're talking to your doctors later, see if this might be something that you can participate in, because these have been shown to reduce fatigue, and it's not medication. It's also not physical therapy. It's its own group of therapy. Additionally, for behavioral parts and treatments for fatigue, there's lots of things that you can do for secondary fatigue. So secondary fatigue, as a quick reminder, there's something that you did that caused the fatigue or something that happened that's causing the fatigue. So your core temperature could be rising. That can cause fatigue. Your stress levels could be rising, especially this time of year. That's common. That could be causing fatigue. Your exercise, maybe you overdid it, or you're doing it too much, or doing the wrong type of exercise for you. We'll get into that a little bit more, but oftentimes people with MS feel like they're so fatigued, regardless if it's primary fatigue or secondary fatigue, they're so fatigued that how the heck am I ever supposed to exercise? Exercise is going to make it even worse. And you can let me know in the chat if you've ever felt that way, because it's common. And I'm going to teach you some exercises today that you can do that's actually proven to reduce fatigue. But it often seems counterintuitive. If you didn't get a good night's sleep, there was a big focus on sleep at the conference that I was just at, and how lack of sleep, for whatever reason, can cause increased fatigue, increased spasticity, increased weakness, poor balance, so many things. Poor nutrition can cause fatigue. Medication can cause fatigue. And again, this is just a small list. There's so many things. So one of the behavioral components is just run through this list. And what I actually tell my clients to do is write this list down so that when you are feeling just extra fatigued, you can look at this list and think, okay, just run through it. How's my core temperature? I think it's doing okay. How's my stress levels? Oof, I'm actually feeling pretty stressed today. Let me practice some form of mindfulness or meditation. So you can just quickly run through and change some of these things right off the bat. And then lastly, energy conservation and taking breaks. So moving on to the physical side of fatigue management, you can conserve your energy in many different ways. So again, this is just a small list. I could go on and on about different types of energy conservation, but splitting up activities that you do. If you're doing chores, like let's just say you're cleaning the kitchen, you don't have to clean the kitchen all in one day, or even all in 1 hour or 2 hours. You can wipe down the countertops first and then go and sit down or rest in some way. And then you can go back and maybe you sweep, and then you go and rest again. And then you go back and you clean the cupboards or something. So splitting up your activities throughout the day, as well as throughout the week, making a schedule to stay organized, using an assistive device. This can help conserve your energy in such a big way. Using gadgets to help you, meditation or mindfulness can help you conserve your energy. Avoiding unnecessary tasks. I loved some of the examples my Missing Link members had said. One of them told me that she no longer dries herself off after a shower. She purchased a terry cloth bathrobe, and that she just wore that, and that dried her off. And then once she was dry, then she'd get dressed. But it just took that task out of the way. She didn't have to worry about trying to dry herself off perfectly. Additionally, letting the dishes air dry, or sitting while you're cooking versus standing, or sitting while you're brushing your teeth versus standing, and also monitoring your exercise. So let's get into more of the physical therapy and exercise that can actually help reduce your fatigue. First and foremost, there is tons of research out there indicating that exercise actually can help reduce fatigue, but it's specific exercise. You can't just do whatever you want. That might be overdoing it and actually cause more fatigue. However, you can do light to moderate exercise. Any form of light to moderate exercise, even better if it's exercise that you enjoy. But there's specific research showing that aerobic exercise, resistance or strengthening based exercise, and aquatic exercise can help reduce fatigue. And I just want to take a point here to say that aerobic does not mean jumping jacks or running or walking on a treadmill or Stairmaster. There's so many other ways that you can get aerobic exercise. Resistance does not necessarily mean lifting in a gym. It can be things that you do at home with some seated exercises. Aquatic doesn't necessarily have to mean swimming. It can mean you're in a pool doing some movements lightly. Other research has also shown that arm movements can be very effective to reduce fatigue and get your heart rate up. I'll demonstrate some of those at the end. And there's lots of seated-based exercises that you can truly do sitting right now, whether you're on a couch, a love seat, a chair, like a kitchen chair, your bed, anywhere that you're sitting, you can do seated exercises to help reduce your fatigue. And lastly, taking breaks. So your break can be anywhere from 30 seconds up to maybe 5 minutes. Listen to your body. Do one round of your exercises and then rest for as long as you feel you need to. Everyone is so different. And not only that, but each day is going to be different. So you might feel like you can do let's say today you practice an exercise and you just need a 30-second break before you feel rejuvenated and like you can do it again. But tomorrow or the next day, maybe you need 3 minutes between, which is fine. That's okay. Listen to your body. Exercising throughout the day has been shown to be just as effective as exercising all at once. And I want to take a moment for you to really read that and understand that. It used to be known that exercising all at once was best. That was probably anywhere from 6 to 8 years ago. Research was recommending exercising all at once. But now they're saying, tons of research is saying it's just as effective to do it throughout the day. Meaning, if you're someone who suffers from fatigue, then you do not need to exercise all at once. In fact, you can pick one exercise and do one round, just one set of as many as you can do with good quality, and then stop. And then maybe you do that same exercise again an hour later or 3 hours later, and then again 2 hours after that. Throughout the day is just as effective. So listen to your body and know that it's still worth it. I used to have clients saying, if I just do 10 here, it's not going to matter. If I do 10 times, but a few times throughout the day, it's not going to matter. It's not all at once. It doesn't feel like exercise, but it is. When it comes to neuroplasticity, if you do 10 repetitions of a specific exercise 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening, that's 30 times that your brain tried to find that pathway. If you do it 10 repetitions, 3 sets all at once, that's still 30 times. So both are equally effective. Your brain still tried 30 times to find that pathway. And then also keep in mind that general movement is still considered exercise. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people think exercise is just, squats and walking and jumping jacks, because I think we're trained to think that when we're younger. But exercise is also movement. I once had a client say that she was so disappointed in herself because she didn't get her exercises in that day. But her daughter was sick and she was upstairs. And so throughout the entire day, my client was going up these stairs to deliver soup, to deliver Kleenexes, to just check in on her. And she was saying, Dr. Gretchen, I'm just so bummed I didn't get my exercises in today. And I said to her, well, how many times did you climb up those stairs to go check on your daughter? She was like, oh my gosh, at least 10 times. It's like, that's exercise. Showering is exercise. Going to get your mail is exercise. These movements are important. Weight shifting, balancing, standing, walking. If you stood while you brushed your teeth, that counts. If you're standing while you're cutting vegetables, that counts. If you're walking to go into the bathroom, because you have to go use the bathroom, that counts. So just don't forget about that. The reason I wanted to mention is because it can be very easy to feel disappointed and discouraged in yourself if you didn't do your exercise program. But if you moved, if you're still doing things, that counts. So just a few more slides for you here quickly. If you need more guidance, first of all, I think it's the next slide. I have tons of different videos on my YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. I do have ways that we can work together. The first is my online wellness program, The Missing Link. It's like my hub, my portal of my favorite MS specific exercises. Mindy has been a guest speaker for us among a bunch of other great ones. We've got activity specific exercises showing you how to climb stairs, how to get into and out of your car, how to stand up from the ground. I also offer one-on-one coaching calls. We have live exercise classes on Zoom each week, and the mentor membership where I work more closely one-on-one over a longer period of time. So this is where you can reach me. We are going to do some demonstrations right now. So I hope that you kind of make sure you have a nice space around you. If you do have any further questions, these are ways you can email me, my website, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook as well, all these good things. So demonstration, we're going to practice some arm movements. And then I'm going to demonstrate some balance and weight shifting positions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I hope that you guys are ready to practice. So I'm just gonna make sure. There we go. All right. So if you want to participate with me right now, come and participate with me. If not, you can just watch or write them down and do this later. So our first one is just going to be arm movements. So what we're going to do is just sit up tall. And you'll notice I'm unsupported. This would be supported, meaning the chair's holding my back up, unsupported. So unsupported, hands in light fists, and you're just punching forward. And you're just punching forward. That's literally all this is. You can get whatever speed feels good for you. So this is one exercise I like to give. Some arm swings or arm pumps. This is another one of my favorite ones. We can also do some cross punches. So that first one was punching forward. If you want to engage the core a little bit more, turning this way. And you'll notice I'm going at a pretty quick speed right now. I would consider this quick. I don't know if you would, but when you're going quick like this and you take few breaks, you will feel your heart rate increase for sure. So these are considered aerobic exercises that can also help reduce your fatigue without even incorporating your legs yet. If you do aerobic exercise with your legs, oftentimes you're too fatigued to then do your leg strengthening exercises. So use your arms if you can. Now, I just want to do those same exercises in a different way. If you're having a day where you are just feeling wiped out, there's two things. Number one, you can allow yourself to rest. Please don't feel like you need to push through an exercise. But number two, sometimes if you feel that way for many days in a row, you'll have that feeling of, I want to exercise. I need to exercise. I want to do something. So you can do those same exercises, but slow. And maybe instead of punching forward at shoulder height, like I am right now, you punch down towards your knees. That's even less effort. Just nice and slow. Keep breathing. You're just focusing on moving. For the arm pumps or the arm swings, still slow. And maybe you do this big motion like I am now, or it's just small motion and it's down here. Truly moving your body in some way versus no way will make a difference. For the rotation punches, this is how we did it at first, and you can stay shoulder height, or you can punch down. Or maybe you don't twist your torso as much. You're still crossing, but your torso stays facing forward. There's so many others. There's one of my favorites, jumping jack arms. Your legs aren't doing anything. You're just doing your jumping jack with your arms. If you have shoulder limitations, come to a T or down here. It doesn't matter. Just move. So those are some of my favorite seated ones. There's also seated core exercises. There's seated leg strengthening exercises. There's tons of seated options. And honestly, I prefer seated options because it's easier and it takes balance out of the equation. So I like for my missing link members to get strong seated first, and then we'll advance to standing. But I did just want to show you some exercises standing just quickly. You don't have to do these with me. I don't know what your balance is like, but I did want to at least demonstrate. Move that there. Hopefully you guys can see me as I back up here. So balancing, you can balance with your feet wide apart. I'm going to quickly run through these, but just you can jot them down if you want. Just balancing with your feet wide, with a good posture, without hinging forward or slouching. This is exercise, being able to stand in this good posture. And then maybe your feet closer and your feet touching, or staggered stance, or alternating staggered stance, or weight shifting. So you're standing up tall, good posture, and you shift your weight over here. And then you shift your weight over this way. And then the other way. Or you're standing and you do those exercises that we just did. That's going to require more balance for sure. Standing, oops, oh, my plant. Standing arm jumping jacks. These things are required in order to help us move throughout the day. You could practice slow sit to stands. So lots and lots of ideas. All of those and a bunch of them are in the missing link as well. But I just want you to know and feel like you do have options. There are lots of things that you can do, even when you're fatigued. And not only that, it will help reduce your fatigue. So I hope that those exercise examples could relate to you, that you feel like, okay, I can do that, because it's so important and it can help you feel empowered as well. All right, so that's all I've got for you guys today. I'm going to make you guys a little bigger on my screen, and I see that we have some questions too. Oh, also, I forgot to mention in the beginning, we are going to have a giveaway, a complimentary month of the missing link. So hopefully you guys are listening and paying attention, and there'll be a question later on that when you answer, you'll be entered to win. Okay, so I see some questions here. I'm just going to start going through them. Okay, can an MS-specific physical therapist help correct compensatory behaviors that may be causing additional impediments to functions caused by MS? For example, holding our bodies in specific ways to adjust balance, which can place additional burden on certain muscles or impact alignment and lead to pain, spasticity, and more. Absolutely. I think going to an MS specialized PT is so important. I can't tell you how many times I've actually worked with a client and they'll say, Dr. Gretchen, I know for a fact that my knee flexors to bend my knee, that's my weakest part. And I've been working on it, just not getting better. And I'll say, okay, well, let's look at your full movement. And her knee flexors were weak, but more than that, it was her hip flexors. And she wasn't even doing hip flexor exercises. So you might feel like there's certain things that are your biggest limitations. And while they are a big limitation, you have others that if you can work on other things, it can help you even more. So yes, an MS specialized PT can absolutely help you with that. Piper Smith, fun fact, my middle name is Piper. So we share that. So Piper Smith says, can this program be viewed after the event? Yes, this is being recorded. Another question, can swinging on a swing set like a playground constitute aerobic exercise because of leg pumping? Trying to incorporate more that I can do outside alone and on my own. Oh, I love that idea. That can absolutely count as exercise. That's your core, it's your arms, it's your knee extensors and flexors. Absolutely. I love that. And we also got a question too that I received earlier about what should your exercise program look like? And it's a hard question to answer because that's going to look different for every person. But the way that I design an exercise program for my clients, the first question that I ask them is, what are your goals? Because some people just have more wellness-based goals. Like, I just want to be stronger. I just want to have better balance. Whereas other people have more functional-based goals. Like, I want to walk further. I want to walk with better quality. I want to climb stairs. I want to stand up from the toilet with more safety, or sit down without plopping. So first and foremost, identify what your goals are. And then think about what that goal requires. Walking requires strengthening. It requires balance. It requires weight shifting. It requires a lot of things. So you take the things that it requires and then put them into days. And I have some clients that in one day, they'll do a little bit of strengthening and a little bit of balance. I have other clients who one day is strength, the next day is balance, and they alternate. So there's no one right way, but the most important thing is you first prioritize, like, why do you want to exercise? What are you hoping will improve? And then break that down and go from there. I think we got another question. Stationary bike makes me fatigue. I want my balance back. Stationary bike. So one thing I didn't really touch on that I will right now because it applies is if you're the type of person that feels fatigued after you exercise, but you didn't feel fatigued during, it's a little bit trickier because you need to really monitor what you did. Maybe you can do the stationary bike, but with no resistance. And I don't know how long you're doing it for, but instead of doing it for 10 minutes, you do it for 5. So less resistance and lessen the time. So maybe you can still do it if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, try to find something else. But also keep in mind, so this question was, the stationary bike makes me fatigued and I want and I want my balance back. And just know that in order to improve your balance, you need to do balance-based exercises. I know so many people that will do some form of the bike, stationary bike, recumbent bicycle, something of that sort, in hopes that it will improve their walking. And it will not. It's completely different positions. So it's a good thing to do for cardio and for leg strengthening, but it will not necessarily improve your balance or your walking. You have to do balance and walking exercises for that.
Dr. Gretchen, we just have a few more questions and then we're going to have to move on, but give us all your questions. We will make sure that Dr. Gretchen answers them and we can even put them in the virtual exhibit hall. One of the questions I saw was, what's the best way to find a PT facility that specializes in MS?
That's a great question. So there's a few places that you can go. The MS organization that gives the MS certified specialist is the Consortium of MS Centers, so the CMSC. So you can go to their website. However, the American Physical Therapy Association, the APTA, that's another place that you can go. And the National MS Society, for sure. The National MS Society has something called a care partner. So that's where you can go to see who the different care partners are that's certified in MS. Good question.
Can exercise itself limit spasticity?
That's a good question. Exercise can reduce spasticity if you're doing exercises in the right way. So if you're trying to strengthen the muscle that's spastic, that actually could increase your spasticity sometimes. But if you're exercising and strengthening the opposite muscle, so for example, if your hamstring that's on the back of your thigh, if that's spastic and you are doing some strengthening exercises for the hamstring, that can make it even tighter. But if you do exercises for your quad on the front of your thigh, then that can sometimes help reduce spasticity, or sometimes exercise a different muscle group. If your knee is what's feeling spastic, maybe focus on the hip, and getting your hip more activated and stronger can sometimes help reduce spasticity.